Welcome back to Winners and Losers, everybody, the show that looks at the highs and the lows from around the Premier League just gone. It was so good to have the Premier League back with fans. Joining me today, Zach Jalab. Jalab, what a weekend of opening football. I can't remember many better ones.
Oh, mate, it was fantastic. Everything was kind of perfect, to be honest.
Yeah.
Refereeing decisions were fantastic. VAR was brilliant. I was lucky enough to go to Stamford Bridge and watch the first 3 p.m. kickoff that wasn't broadcasted on TV for about a year and a half. That was brilliant. It was a fantastic weekend all round. I am buzzing, I do have to say.
Yeah, absolutely buzzing. Right, let's waste no time. Let's get into the show. We're going to start with the talking point. It has to come from the weekend's sort of headline clash, even though I don't think it was the best game of the weekend by some distance. It was the headline maker, wasn't it? Tottenham beating Manchester City and a Harry Kane no-show, Jalab.
Yeah, indeed. The Lily Whites edged the champions Manchester City 1-0 at the great name Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in front of 62,000 people from a good strike from Heung-min Son. However, they did so without their star man Harry Kane, who was deemed not fit enough to play according to The Athletic. Questionable. Kane was not spotted at the game, nor did he congratulate his team publicly after the win. It would seem then he's still pushing hard for a move to the opposition that was Manchester City. However, Pep Guardiola confirmed on Friday that if Tottenham don't want to negotiate, it's finished. Now, Joe, I want to talk a little bit about Harry Kane and his actions and how he's handled this kind of wanting a move away from Tottenham to Manchester City. Do you think what he's done is reasonable?
Oh, it's such a difficult one, isn't it? Because I've heard endless amounts of debate online and by pundits saying, oh, he's such a model professional. He is a saint. I think Gary Neville called him in the footballing community. I think he has to be showing up for time on training, obviously, and there seems to be Harry Kane's version of events versus everybody else's version of events as to why he didn't show up right now. But I don't agree for showing up late to training. I think he should be getting the exact same sort of hammer blows that we've seen Pogba be given over recent years. We've seen Wayne Rooney take strikes over recent years. So if he's not going to show up and he's not going to do his day job, he should be getting absolutely hammered for that, I think, because that is the bare minimum for a professional, to be totally honest with you. And I have to say, I was almost siding, I think, with Mika Richards last night when I saw that sort of Sky Sports punditry debate going on as to whether or not Harry Kane has been unprofessional. If you missed it anyway, here's a quick video.
I've never heard him say...
Mika, do you think the agent speaks without the permission of the player? Do you think the agent just talks out nonsense?
I actually do.
Not a chance.
I actually do. Definitely.
He's echoing the thoughts of the player.
No,
He'll be echoing the thoughts of the player.
Yeah, but even if he is,
from Man United, we haven't got much time left. We talk about Liverpool.
Let's put it this way: if your agent comes out and says 3 or 4 times, I want you to, I want to get Paul a different club. Paul does enough interviews to be able to say, look, my agent's out of order, he's got that wrong. He's never said that either, has he?
He's not gonna do that though, is it? You wouldn't do that with your agent, would you?
I didn't have an agent, Micah. I wasn't.
Micah had 4 agents.
My strings weren't being pulled by anyone.
But enough about Harry Kane. Anyway, let's talk about the game, because it wasn't particularly spectacular, but there were definitely some real standout moments. I think coming into the game, everybody was expecting Spurs to get blown away. The preparations haven't been ideal, have they? Obviously appointed Nuno quite late. There's the Harry Kane saga that's hanging over the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium like a dark cloud. But after they weathered the first 15 minutes, where Manchester City were obviously extremely dominant, playing really fast transitions between the lines, they then really grew into the game. And I think Pep Guardiola said after the match that City just weren't able to cope with Spurs' transitions into counter-attacks, which obviously Spurs are excellent at with the likes of Lucas Moura, Steven Bergwijn. Heung-min Son is like the master of it at this stage. And Manchester City's hoodoo at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium continues. They still haven't won a game there. They still haven't scored a goal there, which is quite frankly shambolic. I want to give a huge shout out to Japhet Tanganga as well. Let's not forget, it was only a couple of weeks ago that he was being heavily linked with a loan move to Galatasaray. I think you can firmly scratch that off the table, because in the first half, 60% of Manchester City's attacks were coming down that left-hand side via Jack Grealish and Raheem Sterling. And yes, he did give away a few fouls. A few people on Twitter were saying he should have been booked earlier. but I thought he was absolutely exceptional, physically in particular. Total mismatch for Raheem Sterling, able to bully him off the ball. He got beaten a couple of times by Grealish, but everybody gets beaten by Grealish a couple of times. Overall, well-deserved of the man of the match. Won all of his aerial duels, completed 90% of his passes. I think he might actually be a really good shout for Nuno on that right-hand side of a back four. If he's not going to play the wing-backs, Matt Doherty's not going to get many minutes. I think Serge Aurier, I don't know what's going on with him at this stage, but for me, he was absolutely excellent. Maybe doesn't work quite so well against a lower block side that are just going to sit in because he's not got the attacking output of a natural right back. But against teams like Manchester City, where you're not going to have an awful lot of the ball, I think he was absolutely superb. I thought Lucas Moura was actually pretty good as well. He's been really good in pre-season. I think he completed 6 dribbles. Heung-min Son, Ollie Skip kind of grew into the game after a bit of a slow start. But nevertheless, what were your thoughts on the game, Jalab? Because Tottenham slightly impressed me here.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of mentioned it, but Man City had a really good, say, 15 minutes or so, where it looked like all they needed was a striker, really, to put the ball in the back of the net. It could have been 3-0 up to that point, and that striker might have been watching on from home. I agree with the Tangang comments. I think he was really good, because before this, I think there were rumours about him maybe going on loan, and that game against Manchester City has done him no harm. I think maybe Nuno will be thinking, oh, actually, I'd like to keep him now. So yeah, I think those comments were pretty good. As for City, this has marked the first time under Pep that they have failed to score for 3 matches in a row, and I think it's roughly out of their last 7 competitive games, I think they've not won at 5 of them. That's if you include the Community Shield as well. So that's up to you guys at home whether you want to include that. Pep has actually now lost more games against Spurs with 5 than he did against Real Madrid with 4, and he's managed 5 fewer games against Spurs as well. I won't say I was naturally very impressed by Spurs. Like, I do think they got a little bit lucky. In terms with the Heung-min Son goal, I think Bruno Diaz can probably do a little bit better. His collapsing is a very weird way to try and block that shot rather than maybe just sticking his foot out. If you've not seen the goal, maybe try and look at it. You'll understand what I mean. However, they perfected their game plan there. They couldn't dominate Manchester City, and why would you try? And so why not play them on the counter attack, especially with Benjamin Mendy? Good God. If Benjamin Mendy is playing more than 10 games this season for Manchester City, they're going to be 10 games that Manchester City have lost. Yeah, Shark Team. Yeah, because I defensively, Mendy has never been a great fullback. But now, the fact that he doesn't have the recovery pace of what he used to when he first arrived there, now that he's done both his knees, and can't make up for when he overcommits, and Heung-min Son or Lucas Moura in this case was fantastic at just driving down his side and causing them issues. And the goal came from his side when he'd pushed forward, and Heung-min Son got the ball and cut in on his left and scored. So yeah, if I'm also a Manchester City fan, I wouldn't necessarily be too worried either. Wait till Zinchenko's back. Kevin De Bruyne looked brilliant the second he was on the pitch, and so yeah, get the players back in there. Phil Foden. And I think they'll be absolutely fine. But let's give the last words to the manager then. Here's what Nuno had to say.
There's no perfection. We still have a long way to go to be perfect, and probably we'll never achieve it. But really proud of the way the players work, and very thankful of the support of the fans. Was huge the way they helped the team till the final minute. Helping the boys was, and we are very thankful for it.
Moving on to our winners then, we've gone for Manchester United here as suggested by Archie on Twitter, and I don't think anybody is going to begrudge me being extremely happy, extremely excited for the coming season about Manchester United after we put 5 past Leeds and Bielsa at Old Trafford. Last season it was 6, this season it was 5, but it was a much more cohesive performance this season from Manchester United than the 6-2 last year. Bruno Fernandes and Paul Pogba combining in frightening fashion, quite frankly. Those two were just absolutely ridiculous. Pogba 4 assists. Bruno obviously got his hat-trick in that sort of kind of a 4-2-3-1, but it was extremely fluid, that front 4. I really liked the look of how Ollie's got us set up with Mason Greenwood starting, I would guess, classically as the centre forward, but being able to drift onto that left-hand side. Bruno going through into that sort of number 9 spot at times, and Pogba having a free roll across the pitch. I mean, that was just one of my favourite performances from Manchester United in so long. It reminded me of Man United from old. The pace in transition from players like Mason Greenwood and the ability to find them by Paul Pogba from deep was just incredible. Bruno Fernandes can't stop scoring goals, can he? 29 Premier League goals since his debut. Only Harry Kane has got more. Football Twitter absolutely spinning on Saturday. Absolutely spinning. I love watching them melt down because they all seem to hate Bruno Fernandes. Paul Pogba as well, got 3 assists last season. He got 4 in one game in 75 minutes. The maestro, absolutely superb. Ollie talked after the game about giving him a free roll to drift in off that left, and Mason's allowed to go out onto that left. Very, very exciting stuff. And when Jadon Sancho comes into that team, you'd think to replace Dan James next weekend, and you have a front line that includes Pogba, Bruno, Jadon Sancho and Mason Greenwood through the middle. This is one of the most exciting Manchester United teams I can remember in years. Really, really looking forward to watching those games. Rashford's got to come back into the team as well. That's going to give us another dimension on the break. Edinson Cavani's finally returned to the UK, and there was the pre-match presentation for Rafa Varane. It couldn't have gone any better for Ollie at the weekend. Absolutely superb start. And I'm buzzing, Jalab.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, mate. If I was a United fan, I would be too. What a first weekend, and against Leeds United with a full stadium at Old Trafford. It was a sight to behold, that's for sure. Mason Greenwood also racked up his 30th goal for the club. He's 19 years old.
Ridiculous player.
It is, and it's also a fantastic finish. The ball is fantastic, played by I think Pogba, and he takes it onto his left foot. The pace on the man, beautiful finish. Like, he's going to develop into a fantastic forward. And as you mentioned, you've still got Marcus Rashford to come back as well. United fans also got their first glimpse of Sancho, who came on the 75th minute. On a Leeds front, though, I think maybe Liam Cooper has a right to feel a bit annoyed. He made 7 tackles, a match high, and with a 100% success rate, no less, and still shipped 5 goals. That kind of shows you how dominant Manchester United were. Obviously, we know Leeds like to their best form of defence is attack, and so they were very much open. But still, he'll be rightfully annoyed. Although XG was far more forgiving for Bielsa's men. It was 1.6 to 0.6 in Manchester United's favour, which is also, quite frankly, ridiculous, showing you how clinical Bruno's finishes were. There's one of them where maybe if it was last year, VAR actually would have called him offside with the new rules and then introducing thicker lines. Absolutely rockets it into the top right corner of the net. Though I'm pretty sure Leeds will bounce back next weekend against Everton. On to our losers now, and it gives me a lot of pleasure saying this. It comes from @BradMackers, and it is Arsenal. God, they kicked off the Premier League against Brentford at Brentford Stadium, their first match in the Premier League. And Brentford won 2-0 over Arsenal. At kick-off, Brentford's starting 11 had 10 minutes of Premier League experience. And by the final whistle, they were top of the Premier League. Canos and Norgard may have got the goals that secured the Bees their first top-flight win since 1947. There were some brilliant scenes as well post-match. To be fair, also pre-match, with fans just enjoying being back in the Premier League. Thomas Frank, fantastic. His interview afterwards was brilliant. But it was their talisman, Ivan Toney, who laid the foundations for their win. Toney won 12 duels in the air, won more aerial duels with 6 and won more fouls with 4 than any other player on the pitch during Brentford's 2-0 win against Arsenal. Now, if you watched the game, you might have thought Toney was 6'4". I was Googling it afterwards. He's 5'10".
Yeah,
and he was causing Ben White issues all night. Joe, I guess talk a bit more about Arsenal and their poor display.
Yeah, I mean, I've spent the week saying that I think Arsenal were going to have a good season. And afterwards, after the game, the reaction on social media was so poisonous towards Arsenal. Like, Arsenal fans already in total meltdown after one game week. And I know that social media is a bit of a cesspit at the best of times, but I just felt like the atmosphere surrounding the club going into the game felt really off, especially when Aubameyang and Lacazette were pronounced ill before the game by Mikel Arteta. They're apparently so ill that they're also going to miss the Chelsea game next week, which just feels bizarre, doesn't it? There's obviously something going on behind the scenes there, to be totally honest with you. But yeah, the starting 11 for Arsenal, when it was announced, I think we all unanimously thought, oh, that's weak. That is weak. And Brentford stand a really, really good shout here. And I know that Arsenal have got 5 players probably to come back into this starting 11. So I still believe that over the course of the season, they are going to be absolutely fine. But there were some worrying moments in the game. I think Ben White's aerial ability being brought into question was a really good point that was raised in sort of punditry by Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher when they were talking about him only having a 50% aerial win success rate at Brighton and playing in that sort of back 3. Can he do it in a back 4? Because he is exceptional on the ball. And there were some moments where he was able to play out from the back and split the lines, but bullied by Ivan Toney, to be totally honest with you. And that's something that just cannot continue. You know, Romelu Lukaku's going to be up against him this coming weekend. He cannot afford to be bullied in the same way he was by Ivan Toney. However, you know, Emile Smith-Rowe was a bit of a bright spark. I thouut Bukayo Saka, when he came on, looked quite sharp as well. I think he completed a match-high 3 dribbles. Yes, there's lots of problems at Arsenal, but I think you've just got to give it some time. The Arteta out brigade is so loud at the moment. It's unbelievable. Antonio Conte has been trending all morning on Twitter. I think that's a little bit harsh. I do think that's a little bit harsh. We're 1 game into the season, guys. He had to play Balogun up front, who's never played senior men's football before, really. And he obviously got manhandled. Martinelli got manhandled. There's 4 or 5 players that are going to come back into this team. You've got Gabriel to come back. You've got Thomas Partey to come back. Bukayo Saka's going to come back in to start. One of Aubameyang and Lacazette will surely come back into the team. And if they don't, then you'd probably think that they're going to sign a striker. Martin Odegaard looks like he's going to come back. So everyone needs to settle down about Arsenal a bit. But this was a terrible start. Let's have it right. And after the game, Mikel Arteta, I think there's an undercurrent of angry, some would say, to this interview.
Obviously, you're missing players in those areas, so that threat is...
I don't want excuses, honestly. It's with what we are. We miss players. We have other players. I don't like to hide, and I don't like excuses.
What was it down to then? If there's nowhere to hide, how do you?
We weren't good enough to beat them. To do certain things, you have to do some basics right, and we did it. And in the box, we need more threat as much as possible. When we get in this position, we need to be much more ruthless, and we weren't.
He's definitely not happy there. But we're moving on to our moments of the weekend. And for me, I'm going to have to pick Trevoh Chalobah's goal for Chelsea against Crystal Palace. We haven't really spoken about Chelsea in this episode, and what a game it was, and what a goal it was for a guy whose dream it's been to play for Chelsea and score at Stamford Bridge in front of the home fans. The first day the fans were back as well. It was brilliant, I have to say. What are you going for, Joe?
I might go for Mikel Antonio, becoming West Ham's Premier League top scorer. This was sent in by Ben Rama. That was a great game to watch. That was a really, really fun game at St James's Park, and it kind of highlighted Newcastle's faults, West Ham's faults to a level, but Antonio's consistency is just remarkable. And like he said after the game, not bad for a right back to become West Ham's Premier League top goal scorer. So congratulations to him. All right, that's it for today's show. If you haven't already, hit the like button, hit subscribe. Zach, anything you want to plug?
Check out our Snapchat. We bring you the daily stories over there of what's happening in the football world. Type in Football Daily and you'll find us.
Yes, and if you haven't already, go and watch Sunday Vibes because it was the return of Patrick van Straten this week. Yes, thanks very much for watching, everybody. See you later. Bye.